What's it going to take for people to start waking up? After the Federal Reserve was created in secret in 1913, the World War I from 14 to 1916, and the Russian Revolution in 1919, hundreds of thousands of people from Russia, Zionist Jewish people, came to the United States and set out on a plan to change our country. The question is, will the same thing happen here in the United States that happened in Russia? Hello, it's Rick Miracle again, Sunday, October 26th, about 3 p.m., 2013. And I have a very interesting book to review that is probably going to involve several supporting documents. It's going to have several supporting documents. And the book is a book about a newspaper. Dearborn, Independent, that Henry Ford, the automaker, purchased the newspaper because back in the early 1919s, 1920s, that period of time, there was a lot of chaos going in the world, as a lot of people know. The Federal Reserve was formed in secret in 1913. And there was World War I, and there was the Russian Revolution, and apparently at these seemingly the same times, there was the preparation or the infiltration of the Zionist Jewish people, planning and actual having operations moving into Palestine to secure a future country for themselves called Israel. Now, what I want to do is, the name of this series of my videos is Masonry and Satanism. And of course, Satanism also is the god, would be Lucifer. So I thought I would read a section of this Aspects of Jewish Power in the United States, published around this was published later, but the articles are from the newspaper around 1920, plus or minus 1919. And it's about 250 pages of the collection of the newspaper press releases from the Dearborn Independent. And you can look this up on the internet. Henry Ford, the automaker. I know a short story about this. That he and many others, of course, were concerned with something they called the Jewish question. And there were problems between Christianity in the United States, and the infiltration and the suppression of Christianity in the United States, and the influence and control being taken over by a faction of the Jewish community. And as I continue to keep saying in my videos, not all Jews left God. The Zionist Jews, the Reformed Jews, they are, in their text and their actions and their activities, they proclaim Lucifer. So it's good Jews and bad Jews. Anyways, what I want to try to do is tell you a little bit about this, some of the details that's in this book. I've read it, and it's just continues to just shock me the more I read it. Anyways, there's something called, this is chapter 21 or something, Jewish Kol Nidre and Eli Explained. These are two songs, like you and I, if we went to Christmas and we sing Jingle Bells, Jingle, all the way. Or the other Christmas songs. These are two of the Jewish songs that's in Henry Ford, the automaker's book for the newspaper he purchased just to expose some of the reality going on in the world. And that story I wanted to tell you was that he was having an effect, and in the Jewish community, the leaders of the Jewish Congress and people that were in charge of the educational system in New York City, well, anyways, they spread the word, and they wanted people to stop buying Henry Ford's cars. And that put a hurt on his industry, the automobile industry, Ford. And he had to cease and desist eventually with his newspaper and back off because this Jewish lobby was just too great. Okay, so with that said, I'd like to read this first page and then move on to something else regarding this book. All the different aspects I talked to you about are going to be about this book. Have looked this year and last for something in your paper about the prayer which the Jews say at their new year. But you say nothing. Can it be you have not heard of the Kol Nidre? Lately in 3 cities I have heard a Jewish religious hymn sung in public theaters. This was in New York, Detroit, and Chicago. Each time the program said, by request. So you're in the movie and somebody requests this song. Not Jingle Bells for Christians, but the Kol Nidre for the Jewish population, which was a huge population in 1920 because that was during the period of the Russian Revolution, and hundreds of thousands of Jewish people were allowed to leave Russia, and many of them arrived in New York City, the Bolshevik Jews and Jews from the surrounding areas. Anyways, and this was after World War I. The Jewish year just passed has been described by a Jewish writer in the Jewish Daily News as the year of chaos. So 1919 was the year of chaos. Well, that was also the year of the Russian Revolution, where eventually about, they say, 20, admittedly, million people were killed in Russia. A lot of Christians and good people, probably good Jews. Of the hundreds of thousands that were left, they knew a change was coming. So it was a year of chaos in 1919. It was in the Jewish Daily News. The writer is apparently intelligent enough to ascribe this condition as to something besides anti-Semitism. He says that the thought that something is wrong in Jewish life will not down. And when he describes the situation in the Near East, he says, the Jew himself is stirring the mess, Henry Ford's book. He indicts the Jewish year 5681 on 12 counts. 5681 is the year 1920. On 12 counts, among them being mismanagement in Palestine. Okay, mismanagement in Palestine. The state of Israel wasn't created in Palestine until after World War II, which was 1946. This is 1920. They're having mismanagement issues in Palestine before they had a country. So obviously there was a plan in effect, and they were moving there without a country. In the thoughts of the future, they would have a country. This is important in Masonry and Satanism. Mismanagement in Palestine, engaging in internal warfare, treason to the Jewish people, selfishness, self-delusion. So apparently the people who were going to Palestine were investors, speculators, rich Zionist Jewish people trying to get there ahead of time, scooping up some properties. So when they actually had the Jewish state, they would be the landowners. I'm just speculating, but it's here in the book. Page 121, the volume 4 of the International Jew of the Dearborn Independent. The Jewish people is a sick people, cries the writer, and when he utters a comfortable prophecy for the year 5682, a year later, it is not in terms of Judah, but in terms of Kol Yeshro, which means all Israel. So in this book, they're in the theaters, they're having these songs requested. And let's move on to the next page. I'm not reading it all. I'm only reading some highlighted sections, as you can see here. There will also be a separation among the Jews themselves. They are not all Jews who call themselves today. There is a Tartar strain in so-called Jewry that is absolutely incompatible with true Israelish raciality. So there's a Tartar strain of Jewish people who call themselves Jews in the Israelish raciality. There are other alien strains which utterly differ from the true Jewish. But until now, these strains have been held because the Jewish leaders needed vast hordes of low-type people to carry out their world designs. But the Jew himself is recognizing the presence of the alien element. Okay, so that's the first part here. I'm going to read more from this book, but I want to stop there. So, in 1919 and 1920, the Russian Revolution had just taken place. From 14 to 1617, World War I had just taken place. 1913, the Federal Reserve was created on December 23rd by the banksters in London, which was a Zionist faction of Rothschilds. So all this ties together. Okay, so now let's just move on to a different little issue here. And we'll get back to the Masonry Bible, which we saw in the Masonry Bible. We saw the pictures that related to Israel. Temple. And we saw the all-seeing eye on the bottom there. But I want to go to the back of the Bible, to Revelations, and read this simple thing from what we just read in Henry Ford's book. And this is Revelation, starting at 7, chapter 2, 7. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit said unto the churches. To him that overcometh will I give to eat of the tree of life, whom in the midst of paradise is in the midst of paradise of God. And unto the angel of the church of Smyrna write, These things saith the first and the last, which was dead and alive. I know thy works, and tribulation, and poverty, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them, which say they are Jews, and are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan. Remember, my book, my videos are called Masonry and Satanism, book review. So all the different books I'm looking at, I'm supporting the fact that Masonry, Satanism, Illuminati, Masonry lodges, and say all of this is one. And they own the Federal Reserve. They're taking Christianity away from the United States. And it says here in the Bible, but they are of the synagogue of Satan. Fear none of these things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, and ye may be tried, and ye shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, I will give thee a crown of life. So apparently these things are going to happen. And then we remember we looked at this book, which was Henry Macau's Illuminati, the cult that hijacked the world. And yes, and my video number 7 was about the protocols of Zion. So I'm going to go ahead and let's see what Henry here says about the protocols of Zion. Page 113. I believe the protocols are genuine. They are lectures addressed to Jewish Luciferians. Here we go again. Illuminati Freemasons. It's in Henry's book. Detailing an incredible plan to overthrow Western civilization, subjugate mankind, and concentrate all the wealth of the world in our hands. They were given also a regular series of workshops on these Jewish Masons in Paris. They were given as a regular series of workshops to these Jewish Masons in Paris. So in other words, they were doing the protocols in seminars in Paris, teaching them. If you read the protocols from my book review 7, you would see they are horrific. They were given as a regular series to the Jewish Masons in Paris. The author describes them as an exposition of our program, and often begins by saying, "Today we will discuss." Anyways, Rabbi Euphrates, the chief rabbi of Sweden from 1910, reportedly wrote in 1924, "Long have I been well acquainted with the contents of the protocols. Indeed, for many years they were ever published in the Christian press. The protocols of the elders of Zion were in point of fact not the original protocols at all, but a compressed extract of same." So this is an instruction manual, the protocols of Zion, that detail the horrific details of calling us going stupid and taking over the world and destroying us, are an extract of a larger document. Of the 70 elders of Zion, in a matter of origin and the existence of the original protocols, there are only 10 men in the entire world who know. Researchers have speculated that Adam Weishaupt, the one who was involved creating the Illuminati, which was a combination of the Masonic lodges worldwide, in 1776, the same year the United States was established, the Constitution of the United States, the Declaration of Independence, 1776. Ironically, it's the same year. There must be some tie-in there, and we're going to see there is. At first I thought it was Meyer Amschel Rothschilds, 1744, 1840. Later I thought it was Lionel Nathan Rothschild or James Rothschild. It's hard to pinpoint because I think the document was constantly revised by different hands. So the Protocols of Zion is written here in Henry McCall's book, and if you read them online, they're free. Or you can go on abooks.com and pick up a copy for $5, $3, and have your own book. And there were many editions from the photos we looked at the other day, and they detail this: taking over the world. You say, "Rick, come on, that's just too much." Well, let's read this. Albert Pike was a leader alive during the United States War between the states, and a leader of the Illuminati, Freemasons Lodge. And he wrote a letter that you ought to hear. In Albert Pike's 1871, so this is just 30 years, 29 years before 1900. I remember in Henry's book is 1919. So a lot of people have a lot of trouble with the time frame. But 40, 50, 60, 100 years to these people is nothing when you're planning to take over the world, I suspect. Albert Pike's 1871 plan for 3 world wars. In 1871, Albert Pike envisioned 3 world wars to be followed by an unparalleled economic disaster. Well, if we remember, after World War I, we had the Great Depression, which was around 1920-something, 29. So after 1929, 1930, right up till World War II, was a Great Depression in the United States of America. A lot of people don't have the dates pinpointed exactly, neither did I. But around 1929, about 10 years after World War I, but also 1919 revolution in Russia. So the United States was going through the Great Depression, while Russia was being behind a curtain where no one could get in and no one could hear anything, and 66 million people were being killed. In the United States, we were going through a Great Depression. A lot of people don't see those things at the same time. And at the same time, they were causing chaos in Iraq and other places, and making it difficult for Jewish people so that they would leave and start immigrating to Palestine for the future state of Israel. So all of this ties together. And this letter is going to probably shock you. All right. Albert Pike letter to Manzini, dated August 15th, 1871. 1871. This is what he wrote. Look it up. Don't believe me. The First World War must be brought about in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the power of the Tsars of Russia and making that country a fortress of atheist communism. Atheist communism. The divergence caused by the agents of the Illuminati between the British and Germanic empires. So the Illuminati had agents in Germany, the Illuminati had agents in London and England, and those agents were going to conspire to get their countries to war against each other. Between the British and Germanic empires will be used to foment this war. At the end of the war, communism will be built and used in order to destroy the other governments and in order to weaken the religions. There is an intentional attack on Christianity and other religions. It doesn't say Christianity, it says religions. We're going to get back to Henry's book and finish that, but this priest stuff, sidebar stuff, is necessary. The Second World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the fascists and the political Zionists, the people who want to have a state of Israel. This war must be brought about so that Nazism, that's national propaganda in Germany, everybody was pro-German, nationalism, Nazism, so that Nazism, nationalism, is destroyed. And if we know anything about the United States now, they're trying to destroy naturalism. And Agenda 21 out of the United Nations, using the global warming issues and overpopulation issues and other issues, they're trying to remove the guns from the USA people and our freedoms with the Patriot Act and the Terrorist Act and 911. So these things on these videos I'm bringing into the realm of the current activities. This is part of a larger plan, as we'll see here with Albert Pike's letter. So that Nazism is destroyed and the political Zionism is strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Israel and Palestine. So after World War II, they did get their Palestine-Israel state. And they've been growing ever since. If you've been watching my videos, you've seen the progression of the size of the landmass which they own. And I believe, if you've seen my videos of previous ones, that their goal now is Israel, for the size of it is, will be 1,000 times larger, 10,000 times larger. And I showed you photographs of that too. And if you go on Protocols of Zion and also photos and do a search, you'll see the Yahoo website for Protocols of Zion photos, and you'll see the future maps of Israel, which takes into account Syria and parts of all of Lebanon and many other countries, almost the size of the United States. During the Second World War, international communism must be strong enough in order to balance Christendom, which would be then restrained and held in check until the time when we need it for the final social cataclysm. Ouch. And if you're paying attention to 2013, you know there's no more baby Jesus in Christmas, and the laws don't allow it. And back in 1871, Albert Pike here wrote about what they had to do. 1871. The Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agentor, the agents of the Illuminati, between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, Syria, Libya, all those countries, Iraq, Afghanistan, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, the state of Israel, mutually destroy each other. So all this shenanigans, all this suffering for 100 years to create Israel, these Illuminati plan on seeing it all destroyed. Why? Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on the issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economic exhaustion. We shall unleash the nihilist and the atheist, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm with which in all its horror will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, origin of savagery, and of the most bloody turmoil. So all this stuff they're putting on TV and the movies, and like I keep saying, the Charlie Sheen with a different woman, and Seinfeld show, a different woman, and all the other shows with all the sex and all the murder and all the drugs. They're programming the people. I keep saying that. It's all intentional. A formidable social cataclysm with all its horror will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, origin of savagery, and the most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere the citizens, obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries, will exterminate these destroyers of civilization and the multitude, disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will form that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an idea. So they're going to make such chaos and hell that all the atheists and people who are into the New Age, who don't believe in God, will attack and try to kill the Christians who are trying to yell and say God is real. Don't listen to this New Age material and plans. Nobody will believe anybody. Blacks will be against whites. Immigration, Mexicans, and other people will be against the citizens, the government. This will all be fomented, all this chaos. The rich will be against the poor. The USA people will be made to think that the Arabs are all terrorists. It'll just be insane. Everybody will fear the Russians. The Chinese will be made to be the bad, evil enemy. The chaos will be created. Okay. And exterminate destroyers of civilization and the multitude disillusioned with Christianity. But without knowing where to render its adoration, people will seek for a solution. Will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer. Whoa. It says Lucifer right here in Albert Pike's letter. Brought finally out into the public view, this manifestation will result from the general reactionary movement which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time. Okay, so what did we see? We saw that Henry Macau's book says the protocols are real. If you looked up the protocols, they're horrible. Detail a plan, taking all the people's money, enslaving the people. The Illuminati, Albert Pike, wrote a letter saying what they were going to do. The Masonic Bible has the pictures in it of Israel. So, and we know here the Federal Reserve System was created. You can look this stuff up. Don't believe me on anything. In 1913, December 23rd, it became the bank from, the leaders of the Bank of England, the Rothschild, the Illuminati, created in 1913. So if they created the Federal Reserve in 1913, why in 1929 did we get a Great Depression? So they had, what, 15 years to have the government under their thumb? And don't forget, at the same time was the Russian Revolution, 66 million people killed. And in the back door, they were forcing other countries to create life difficult for Jewish people to move to Palestine. And also, after 1913, we had World War I. You can look this up on the internet. and read books, like I have done, which was from 1914 to 1918. Wasn't that fortuitous? Just before Christmas, they formed the world's banksters, the Illuminati, the one who wrote the thing about Albert Pike in World War I, World War II, World War III. So in 1913, at Christmas time, they created the Federal Reserve. And in July of 1914 to 1918, they had World War I. And it is admitted in their documentation, World War I was so that they could dismantle and destroy the leaders in Russia. So, in 1917, they could take over Russia and use it for a base of operation as per Albert Pike's letter. It's like, you know, now they have Russia at that time in 1919, and they killed 66 million people. And what a base of operation to do this New World Order. And then here in you can look this up on the internet. I do this to show you that I do my homework. The Great Depression was in 1929, right up to World War II. So they were certainly sucking all of the resources and money from the USA people for this with this new bank thing. And now I want to get back to Henry Ford's book, all that. And we were talking about Zionism taking over the world in Albert Pike's letter. So what did Henry Ford back in 1920 have to write about in his newspaper, the Dearborn Independent? Okay, and we were talking about the two songs that people would ask to be sung when they went to the movies in places like New York City, the Kol Nidre and Eli Eli. And we found out that in 1920, the Jewish Daily News says that 1920 was the year of chaos, and they were moving people into Palestine, and there was the Russian Revolution, and World War I had just finished, and they had, in 1913, backdoored, made deals with the president at the time, who later said he regretted signing those documents to create the foreign-owned Federal Reserve. There's a lot more going on here than meets the eye. Okay, so it says here, the Jewish people himself is recognized in the presence of an alien element. So they have these, during this time of the Russian Revolution, 150,000 or whatever Jewish people from the Russian area and surrounding Serbia, Mongolia, all that area, Caucasus, these foreign Jews, and we saw in the Bible it says Jews who call themselves Jews but are not, were becoming a troublesome issue in New York City. The Dearborn Independent has heretofore scrupulously avoided even the appearance of criticizing the Jew for his religion. The Jew's religion, as most people think of it, is unobjectionable. But when he has carried on campaigns against the Christian religion, and when in every conceivable manner he thrust his own religion upon the public forum from the stage of the theaters and in other public places, he has himself to blame if the public asked questions. So people will call me names and say, Rick, are you an anti-Semite? I'm an investigator. I'm investigating Federal Reserve. I'm investigating Russian Revolution. I'm investigating the backdoor thing to Palestine for Israel. Who's behind all this? And I find Albert Pike's letter and a large plan. So no wonder I'm making videos called Masonry and Satanism. Book Review 1 of 25. Book Review 2 of 25. This will be Book Review 9, I believe. Anyways. It is quite impossible to select the largest theater in the United States, place the Star of David high on a beautiful stage, heavens above all flags. The Star of David is Israel's flag. Remember, the Star of David was also King Solomon's ring that he would use for magic to call forth demons. So again, Masonry and Satanism, I am tying this together. Satanism, Masonry, Zionism, globalism, New World Order, Freemasonry, and not all Freemasons or Mason members know what's going on. The low level, the good guys, they never get told the details. I get people saying, well, you know, my uncle was a Mason. He wasn't a bad guy. No, but he never found out the details. Okay. Heaven, they placed the Star of David in a beautiful stage, heavens above all flags and all other symbols. For a week, while all sorts of wild prophecy and all sorts of silly defiance of the world sing hymns to it, otherwise adorn it without arousing curiosity. So all the Christians and other non-Jewish people were watching this go on. It's like somebody celebrating a specific college football team, and the masses of people see them all screaming and hollering watching a TV or a soccer game, but these people would have this Star of David in the theater and be screaming and hollering, and most of us would be wondering what they're doing. The Kol Nidre is a Jewish prayer named from its opening words, all vows. That's what Kol Nidre means, all vows. It means all vows you take. If I vow to be a good man, or I sign a contract to honor some kind of deal. All vows. It is based on the declaration of the Talmud. The Talmud is one of the Zionist Jewish Bibles, where many of the satanic Jewish people don't focus on the Christian Bible, the Old Testament of Moses, bringing the Hebrews out of Egypt. It is a horrible text, I understand, that describes what they should do to the Goyim, the people who are not Jewish, and fleece them and lie to them and cheat them. That's in the Talmud. Okay, here it goes. This is what they would sing. He who wishes that his vows and oaths shall have no value, stand up at the beginning of the year and say, all vows which I shall make during the year shall be of no value. It's like a pledge of allegiance to Satan. I made that part up. But they're saying here at the beginning of the year, the new year, celebration, everybody's having Christmas and they're having their holidays, that any vow that I make this year is null and void before I even make it. Henry's book, not me. Just thought you ought to know. In the volume of revised festival prayers published in 1919 by the Hebrew Publishing Company, New York, the prayer appears in its fullness. Here goes. All vows, obligations, oaths, and anthems, pledges, so if they do a pledge, I pledge allegiance, of the names which we have vowed, sworn, devoted, or bound ourselves to, from this day atonement until the next day of atonement, next year when they do it again, whose arrival we hope for in happiness, we repent aforehand of them all. They shall all be deemed absolved, forgiven, annulled, void, made no effect. They shall have no binding, nor have any power. The vows shall not be reckoned vows. The obligation shall not be obligatory, nor the oaths considered as oaths. So I showed you the picture earlier of Obama surrounded by all the dual citizens or Jewish folks in Washington, D.C. 99% of our politicians are of Jewish origin. If you look it up, it's pretty obvious. Even Bush's team, Ben Bernanke is Jewish. All these people. And if they, this is in 1919, are they still singing this song? Have they changed their religion? Have they fulfilled their promise to remove Christianity from the United States and fool the people? Seems so. Moving on. Early in the year, when a famous Jewish violinist landed in New York after a triumphant tour abroad, he was besieged by thousands of his East Side admirers and was able to quiet their cries only when he took his violin and played Kol Nidre. All vows. Then the people wept as exiles do at the sound of the song of the homeland. So they wept. Remember, they had left Russia and Serbia and Mongolia area, in the Caucasians and the Black Sea. And this is what they sing. It's kind of a satanic song. In that incident, the reader will see that hard it is for the non-Jew to understand it, there is a deep-rooted, sentimental regard for the Kol Nidre. So any kind of promises I make aforehand, God, I null and void it. So when I shake somebody's hand and make a deal, I'm lying. Oh my God. Masonry and Satanism, I'm telling you. I didn't write Albert Pike's letter. I didn't create Zionism. I didn't make this picture. I just went on the internet and put in Protocols of Zion and photos. Found the website. Pictures. There's 1,000 words there. So a deep-rooted sentimental regard for the Kol Nidre, which makes it one of the most sacred of possessions of the Jew. Indefensible, immoral as the Kol Nidre is, utterly destructive to all social confidence. So you make a deal and hire a lawyer, he's already made an oath that whatever he promises you, he doesn't have to keep. The music of the Kol Nidre is famous and ancient. One has only to refer to the article Kol Nidre in the Jewish Encyclopedia to see the predicament of the modern Jew. He cannot deny, he cannot defend, he cannot renounce. The Kol Nidre is here and remains. But the prayer is a holy advance notice given in secrecy to the synagogue that no promise whatever shall be binding, and more than not being binding is there and then violated before it is ever made. So it's not binding, but more than not binding, it's violated before the guy made it. The prayer looks wholly to the future. We repent aforehand. Remember, the United States, from after World War II, like 1946, 47 to 1976, somewhere in that period of time, you can look this up, out of the Federal Reserve, which controls our government gave aid to Israel to the tune of $90 billion. 46, 56, 25 years, whatever. At the same period, look this up, 90 billion. The whole world received probably less than 90 billion. So the whole world during 25 years got less than 90 billion or 90 billion. And Israel got 90 billion. So why did the dot in the map get 90 billion? At the same 25-year period, the whole world didn't get 90 billion. You think there's something going on here with the World War I and Albert Pike's letter and Russian Revolution and 66 million people killed? When I read these books, I'm blown away. I'll tell you what, you start investigating, it'll make you a little upset. It requires no argument to show that if this prayer be really the rule of faith and conduct for the Jews who utter it, I would like to change the word in this book. But back then, Henry Ford didn't know probably as much about Zionism as we do today. But all the times they use the word Jews in this book, it shouldn't be that it's all Jews. There are books like we saw with Henry Macau and Rabbi Antelman and many others who are trying to expose this, who believe in God and the Ten Commandments that Moses brought down from the mountain, not the faction that went off into the occultic and practice Zionism and occultism, which has taken over Hollywood, and even a lot of Hollywoods on that one video I told you to look at are practicing occultism, like Madonna and Sammy Davis Jr. and Roddenberry, who did Star Trek, who said he went into trances and communicated with demons and got all the script line for the Star Trek series. So it's just so interesting how this, where all the witchcraft, where they killed all the witches and occultic practitioners back in the Inquisition and through the Middle Ages of Europe. I suppose it was real. But now they have the high-tech science where you just wonder, are they opening up portals and letting the demonic beings in? Are these the orbs and spaceships we are seeing? What's in our future? That's why I'm doing these videos. Maybe Satanism is taking a scientific turn for the worst for us. Okay, its origin is not from the Bible but from Babylon. Ooh, we go back to where Sodom and Gomorrah, Moses in Egypt. Funny how this whole biblical thing comes full circle after 4,000 years. And the mark of Babylon is strongly impressed on the Jews. Again, I should like to change the word to Zionists. Then is the mark of the Bible. Kol Nidre is Talmudic. Like I said, the bad book that these Zionist, occultist Zion people study from that says that you and I are cattle and we are to be fleeced and enslaved and killed. Thank you very much, Zionism. I don't think I like it. And finds its place among many other dark things in the many-volumed and burdensome invention. Many explanations have been tossed out there. One of the explanations, and I think I'll just ad-lib with this so I can move you faster, was that during the Inquisition they were killing so many Jewish people who didn't convert to Christianity that they made up this Kol Nidre so they could swear to Christianity and not mean it. Well, that would be fine and plausible if it weren't not for the fact that unfortunately for this explanation, the Kol Nidre is found centuries before that when the Jews were under no pressure. We find, for instance, the formula to invalidate vows on the Yom Kippur in the prayer book of the Rabbi Amram Goun, G-O-U-N, this is page 128, of the Yom Kippur in the prayer book, who lived in the 9th century. So that would have been 850, 840. 9th century means during the period of 800, 10th century with 900 and so forth. The form of the prayer in the matter of his age may be in dispute, but back in the ancient and modern Talmud, it is the authorization of the practice. He who wishes that his vows and oaths shall have no value, stand up at the beginning of the year and say, all vows which I make during the year shall have no value. So the Zionist, Jewish, Talmud Bible that they use instead of the biblical Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament, gives them permission to do this. And they worship Lucifer, remember? So the devil said, you can lie. It's part of my game, my commandments. You can do adultery. You can kill. You can steal. You can covet. You can bear false witness. You can have other gods. I'm doing the opposite of the Ten Commandments here. You can have idols. This article does not say that the Jews thus deliberately assassinate their pledged word. So even though they do it, they don't have to go back on their word. It does say that both the Talmud and the prayer book permit them to do so and tell them how it may be accomplished. Well, if they're going to do the vow, I guess they're probably going to break it. So much for the promises to have a two-country state in Palestine and Israel. It is being by the Jewish vaudeville managers, so these are the managers of the movie theaters back then, a lot of them were Jewish, and other festival activities, as their contribution to the pro-Jewish campaign, which the Jewish-controlled theater is flinging into the faces of the public from the stage and the motion picture screen. It is an incantation, that's a magic spell, designed to inflame the lower classes of Jews against the people and intensify the racial consciousness of those hordes of Eastern Jews who have flocked here. That's something else to talk about. We'll take a break from this. That's interesting. So it said that there were Tata Jews that were causing the problem in New York. Remember that earlier? So I had to go look up, what's a Tata Jew? Well, apparently there was this guy called Genghis Khan who pretty much took over the whole world back then. And said he was sent by God to destroy everybody because they sinned. Genghis Khan, involved with the Tata Jewry people. This was around 1162, so 12th century, not that far ago. The history of the Mongols. The Mongols, interestingly enough, is Mongolia, which is right above China and under Russia. So you need to go on the internet and go Genghis Khan and photos, and you should get a little shock when you see what you see, and you find out that this man pretty much took over the world, and apparently he's part of the gangs of people who are the Zionist Jewish people would do all these horrible things. He was a big butcher and killed millions and millions of people. They called them hordes. They would come across, just kill everybody. Wow. Okay, let's go back to this and try to finish this Henry Ford. Again, I just try to do a book review so you can see what I see, so why and I get concerned and why I share things. It's not unfounded. And things you should know, and if you don't know, you don't know what to think. You don't know who to believe. And I don't want you to believe me. I want you to go get online, look up the book, look at this other stuff I talk about. Pause the video, take a note, look it up. It's a bad day coming, hell on earth. I think if we were to find out and figure it out, and it says it in the Bible too, you know, the people don't have to turn away from God. He's ready to jump in and save the day. All the people have to do is ask. Of course, this Lucifer guy is telling these people they don't have to keep their promises. And they're singing songs in the movie theater before the movie at the request. It's not really a request, it says in this book, that it's from the Jewish hierarchy, the people who actually have all the organizations in the United States, tell all their Jewish owners of theaters to do this. It's all propaganda like we have now in the 2013 on TV. Again, with 2.5 Men and Charlie. And I love 2.5 Men. I like to watch it. It's funny. But it dawned on me that it's mind control. And you can't sit there and say, okay, that's the way life should be. God says, commandment number 7, no adultery. And there's more in there. You need to read that stuff. At the instigation of the New York Kahila, that's a newspaper there, Eli, Eli is another song, has for a long time been sung at the ordinary run of performances in vaudeville. Motion picture houses been by notice. So there's another song besides Kol Nadre. It's called Eli, Eli. And we'll get through this and we should have enough here for this video. By request, which is usually a bald lie, it is by order, like I said earlier. The request is from the Jewish headquarters, which has been ordered on the speeding up of the Jewish propaganda. When 2 Jewish comedians who have been indulging in always vulgar and often indecent antics, notice it's becoming the norm on TV now, appear before the drop curtain and sing the Yiddish incantation, Eli, Eli, which of course is incomprehensible to the major part of the audience, the Jewish element always betrays a high pitch of excitement. They understand the game that is being played. The Gentiles are being flayed in their face. They're insulting the Gentiles, they're going, you and me, in our face. And they don't know it. And when a Yiddish comedian pours out shocking invectives on the name of Jesus Christ and gets away with it, the Jewish portion of the audience howling in delight, the audience, not Jewish, don't know what they're howling and singing about, join in and get happy too. And they're saying derogatory things about Jesus Christ. The Jewish portion of the audience howling with delight, and the boob, they think Gentiles are boobs, they call it B-O-O-B. Boob Gentiles look serenely on and feeling it to be polite to laugh and applaud. So to be polite, they laugh and applaud, but we don't know what they're doing, so they think we're boob Gentiles. I'm not a boob. I looked this stuff up. This Yiddish chant is the rallying cry of race hatred, which is being spread abroad by orders of the Jewish leaders. The Kilahad, it's the Jewish newspaper, and the American Jewish communities, which for more than 10 years have been driving all mention of Christianity out of public life. Now you know what's going on. Under their slogan, "This is not a Christian country," are spreading their own type of Judaism everywhere with insolence unparalleled. Eli, Eli is not a religious hymn, it is a racial war cry. In low cafes in New York where Bolshevik Jews hang out, so these are the Jews that took over Russia and killed 66 million Christians and other people and good Jews, have 150,000 of them came to New York and are now singing their revolutionary rallying cries here back in 1920. Is it any wonder where we are today? Why we are where we are today? That's a tongue twister. It has become the fanatical chant of all Jewish Bolshevik clubs. It is constantly heard in Jewish coffee houses and cabarets where emotional Russian and Polish Jews, all enemies to all government, shout the words amid torrential excitement. When you see the hymn in point, you are utterly puzzled to understand the excitement it rouses. I'm going to read it to you, and we'll be done with this. The term incantation is used here advisedly. The term is used by Kurt Schindler, who adopted the Yiddish hymn to American use. My God, why hast thou forsaken me? With fire and flame they have burnt us. Everywhere they have shamed and derided us. Yet none amongst us has dared depart from our holy scriptures, from our law. Well, if you remember, Jesus Christ on the cross spoke up, it says in the Bible, why hast thou forsaken me? But the second part here is, with fire and flame they have burnt us. Remember there in World War II, before this, and all throughout history, wherever these controlling Zionist Jewish folks who did occultism went, from Germany, for everywhere, they were out there welcome early, and they were run out of town. And in Spain, of course, they had the Inquisition, and people were burnt at the stake. And after Jesus Christ was crucified, they were persecuted. So it's a song. They go, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? With fire and flame they have burnt us. They is the Gentile, you and me. They are accusing us of burning them. They're singing that while we're sitting there in the theater. The resigned tone to a wild rage of anarchists of the East Side coffee houses. The motive, of course, for the singing of the hymn is the reference to non-Jew people. With fire and flame they have burnt us everywhere. They have shamed and derided us. Who are they? So what they're saying, for all the troubles the Jews had throughout history, they are not at fault for anything. We are all at fault. It's all our fault. But the Goyim and the Christians who have unsuspectedly sit nearby and are so affected by Jewish applause that they applaud too. Truly, in one way of looking at it, the Jews have a right to despise the Gentiles. They have burnt us. They have shamed us. But we poor Jews have been harmless all the while. None among us daring to depart from the law. That is the meaning of Eli, Eli. And this is what's in the book. They are all wrong. We are all right. That's what these people singing think. So here, a Christian nation like the United States, believing in Christ, Jesus, the Jews are saying, they're all wrong. We're all wrong about Christ. And they're right that Christ wasn't the Savior. And that's why they're disallowing Christianity at Christmas anymore in the school systems and programming with the TV that nobody believes in God. This is 1920 now. Henry Ford, I mean, you don't believe me. Henry Ford wrote the stuff. Is it possible, of course, that right-minded Jews do not approve of this? They may disapprove the kol nodri, taking away your vows before you make them. They may resent the use which the Jewish leaders are making of Eli, Eli, singing the song that the Christians are all wrong and they're all right, and we've been prosecuting and burning them and everything, which is, in my opinion, throughout history, the Jewish people, these people who always wound up in charge, not all Jewish people, like I said, a lot of people lived in peace, like in Iraq, during the 1920s, when deals were made with the leader of Iraq to start causing chaos. This was 1920, before World War II. So that the Jews would leave so they could start funneling them to Palestine, which was not theirs to have. The League of Nations, which was formed after World War I, failed on its promise to deliver Palestine to Israel. So they had to have World War II to then get it what they wanted. A lot of Christians, a lot of other religious people, a lot of atheists, a lot of people all over the world died for this 100-year activity. Protocols of Zion. Read them. The Illuminati. Albert Pike's material. Morals and Dogma. Go online. 8 books. $5. Get the book. Read it. Your life depends on it. The life of your family and friends depend on it. Our nation depends on it. On you doing something, me doing something. But when it is a matter of keeping Eli out of the theater, or the Kol Nadre out of the mouths of those thus plan a whole year of deception aforehand, these same Jews are very inactive and apparently very powerless. So there's a lot of Jews who didn't go along with this. But obviously they're not speaking up. The Anti-Defamation Committee would better shut up shop until they can show either the will or the ability to bring pressure to bear on its own people. So I think the Anti-Defamation Committee of the Jewish people needs to stop doing what they're doing and start curtailing the activities of their own people. Because I'm not anti-Semite. I read the material and I didn't know what Zionism was, and Mason lodges taken over by the Illuminati, and secret conspiracies to form the Federal Reserve. And during World War I, there was a Russian Revolution going on, and prior to that, probably to finance all this shenanigans, was the Federal Reserve in 1913. And then the Great Depression, probably this Federal Reserve was sucking every dollar out of the United States, destroying the country, which we know that the Rockefeller and the Morgan groups and Chase and all that were buying up all the property in the United States and companies and factories with this fabricated depression, that they owned the financial institutions. All they had to do is jack up the interest rates and decrease the money supply, and they controlled it just like a throttle. The engine of the United States came to a standstill. It's a world plan. It's a conspiracy. It's not even a conspiracy. It's verifiable. It's a world plan. It's satanic in nature. Masonry and Satanism. All right, so we did an hour video on this one. That should be enough. Thank you for watching. Don't believe what I say. Go look it up. Go online, abebooks.com. I have nothing to do with them. Go to YouTube videos. Look up Satanism. Look up Illuminati. Look up Zionism. Watch a few videos. Look up Henry Macau's materials. If you just start looking, seek and ye shall find. Is that in the Bible? It's in the Bible, though, that the Jews that are not Jews who call themselves Jews in Revelation. Who are they? Satanists? From Genghis Khan's area, the Mongolians, the Tartars? South of Russia? Is there a faction of people who, like a lot of people turn into Christianity from other religions? A lot of Jewish people converted to Christianity. A lot of Christians probably converted to Judaism. But did these people from Khazaria and Tartars and Mongolia that pretty much tried to rule the world during the 1200s, 1150, 1,000 years ago? Did a lot of them convert to Judaism and they're really not Jews and they still are connected to China and Mongolia and Russia and practice occultism and Satanism? And are these the Zionists? Are these the controllers of the Illuminati and all this backdoor pyramid schemes? Lots of questions. And now they have TV for all the mind control and the drugs they're forcing on children. Satellites in space. They got technology. They can mind control people. And I have books I'm going to do on this Masonry and Satanism issue of 1 out of 25 that are involved these things. But I didn't think you would get them if I did them up earlier. I needed to build the foundation of who, what, and why, what's going on. And the reputable people, Henry Ford, Henry Macau, Rabbi Adelman, Thomas Paine, Common Sense, the Bible itself, the Masonic Bible. Always. Anyways, thank you for watching. And my email is rickmiracle, like it's a miracle, @yahoo.com. If you have any comments, suggestions, things I should know. If you're going to insult me, just don't email me. Or I'm sure enough people that are part of this will send me a lot of hate mail. And a lot of people who are brainwashed and don't believe in God because they were born in 1960 or 70 or 80 or 90, and they've been watching the cartoons and the TV shows. They've been programmed, just like it says in here. Back in 1920, they were taking Christianity out of the schools. And the teachers were afraid to say anything. And so were the other people. Thank you for watching. God bless. Wake up and study and tell your friends.